All right, I think I can now get started. Good morning, everyone. My name is Bala Venkatesh, and I'm the Academic Director of the Center for Urban Energy at Ryerson University. And I'm also the Director for NSERC Energy Storage Technology Network. I would like to welcome you to the fifth annual Leading the Charge conference. Although we cannot be in person in Toronto this year, we would like to offer our sincere thanks to all of you for joining us remotely from across Canada and around the world. As we aim to meet Canada's net zero emission goal and build back better from COVID-19 pandemic, deep and clean electrification is going to be an integral part to this evolution of our energy systems and ultimately to the transformation of our society. So it's no surprise that the demand for innovative energy storage solutions is rising. That's a part of a panel session this afternoon. And for the last 5 years, this conference has brought together thought leaders from academic community, industry, utilities, and government to share their perspective on the promise, progress, and potential pitfalls of energy storage. Today, we'll also be delving deep into related areas such as transactive energy and exploring the potential of clean hydrogen. As our energy system transforms to integrate clean technologies, cooperation from all sections of society is required. So I look forward to hearing from our amazing lineup of speakers today, all bringing with them different backgrounds, viewpoints, and ideas. Some housekeeping notes. Please refer to our program. It's important. Why? Because there are 4 different sessions today, and the conference will wrap up at 4 p.m. Eastern. There are breaks, including a lunch break throughout the day. Unfortunately, we won't be providing refreshments this year. We'll try next year. I hope and wish and pray that next year we'll all be together and we can do this in real. There will be an opportunity to ask our speakers and panelists questions during each and every session using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So please use it freely. You might start asking questions during the session itself, a benefit of this virtual way of doing things, and we'll collate all those questions and ask them at the end of the session. If you have any questions or any issues at all which are technical regarding this event, please email LTC, leading the charge at ryerson.ca. You should receive a prompt response. All right, now the next phase of my start here. It's my great honor to introduce Susan Uthayakumar, who will be delivering some opening remarks. Susan is the Canada Country President and CEO at Schneider Electric. Throughout her 15-year tenure at the company, Susan has been instrumental in transforming Schneider Electric from a product manufacturer to a specialist in energy management and automation technologies. She is dedicated to driving reduction in carbon emissions using technological solutions, enhancing electrical grid innovation and safety and operational efficiency. Susan is passionate about developing future business leaders and is a champion of weaving diversity and inclusion into the Schneider Electric company fabric. I would also like to acknowledge that Schneider Electric has been an integral supporter of NSERC Energy Storage Network since its inception. The company has also sponsored labs, including Schneider Electric Smart Grid Lab at Ryerson University, giving our students access to one of the most cutting-edge facilities in Canada in order to develop their skills, test their innovations, and carry out their clean energy research. Susan, we are incredibly grateful for Schneider's ongoing support, and thank you for making the time to join us today. Over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Bala, and hello, everybody. It's great to be here with you virtually. And Bala has done such a great job of introducing myself, so I'll speak a little bit about the company Schneider. We are very, very passionate about creating a sustainable future. And we believe that that only can happen by collaborating with people globally in the country and by having a mandate to really drive a better future. So I'm very proud to be part of the company, and I'm very happy to be part of this initiative. As Bala said, this is the fifth annual Leading the Charge conference, and it's an important conference because it brings together academic and technical expertise with the practicality of the industry experience. And it allows really for all of us to explore all aspects of energy storage and renewables, which are critical for creating the sustainable future that we also want. As in previous years, this conference is organized as part of the NSERC Energy Storage Technology Network, which we all refer to as the NESTnet. And as you know, as you may know, NEST is a 5 million pan-Canadian network of 15 universities and 26 industry and government partners, all focused on the future of energy storage, which again, as I mentioned earlier, is essential for the creation of global transition to clean energy. And there are also 100 students and 25 professors who dedicate their time and effort to creating this initiative. And as Bala mentioned, we at Schneider Electric are very proud to be part of the NestNet because we feel that it's our responsibility and our pleasure really to champion the important work our partners are doing in this space. And being part of the private sector and bringing that, what Schneider Electric is able to do is we're able to partner with others to enable the progress towards a strong domestic Canadian energy storage industry that's also competitive in the global marketplace. And I was reflecting earlier with the panelists that as we're facing unprecedented economic and health crisis, and I'm so glad to be in Canada, and I'm so glad to see really the world trying to work together to solve an unexpected issue. And I feel that as we look at the future and as we look at sustainability and as we look at energy storage, we in the country and in globally have to come together to create that solution for a cleaner future. Um, and Bala also mentioned that at Schneider Electric, we're involved in a number of initiatives, and as part of the Nest network that we are working as advisors to the Research Steering Committee. We're also an advisor to the Board of Directors, and with the donation of the Smart Grid Lab, which is an integral place for testing concept and equipment developed out of the Nest network, we're very happy to continue that ongoing support. And I would just say that I and Schneider were very honored and proud to be part of the network that will play the important role in Canada's clean energy future. I also had a chance to kind of think about, personally, how my involvement has benefited myself, Schneider, and the contribution to the Center for Urban Energy. As you all know, the Center for Urban Energy is an important partner for Schneider Electric for many years now. And Schneider has had a representative on the CUE advisory board for 8 years. And I've played that role for the past 3 years. And I feel that it has given me the opportunity to bring in the private sector input to the CUE. And it has allowed us to explore how to develop sustainable solutions for the urban energy challenges we all face. And while this challenge may have slowed down a little bit because of COVID and the fact that everybody had to take a step back and perhaps move out of cities, there will be a solution to the current problem that we have. And we will again face the urban energy challenge. And the CUE plays a very important role in the advancement of smart grid technologies and integration of energy storage and electric vehicle and renewables. And being part of the board, what I feel is that the private sector view is very important to be considered in the state of the clean energy. And I also feel that having the private sector input allows the organization and the center to consider what opportunities are available to take advantage as the center moves forward. Um, and I'm also very happy to share that the CUE has accomplished 75 projects that are completed and 42 startups and 900 plus alumni that are part of the network to better the energy challenge that we all face together. And I'm very grateful to be able to work with the CUE as part of this initiative. Now, with that, I'm very, very happy to introduce our keynote speaker this morning. I'm delighted to introduce Terry Young, who last month became the interim CEO and president of the Independent Electricity Systems Operator, the organization that's accountable for ensuring Ontarians have the electricity they need, when they need it, and where they need it. And many of you will have crossed paths with Terry over the years. He has spent 35 years in the electricity sector, and he has been with the IESO since the opening of the electricity markets in 2002. But he actually started his career as a journalist, and it's this curiosity that continues to inform his approach to everything that he does. As someone who early training conditioned him to ask questions and to look beyond the status quo, it's no surprise that innovation, or at least the innovation as seen through the IESO system of reliability and cost-effective mandate, is near and dear to his heart. In his last role as Vice President of Policy, Engagement and Innovation, he established the IESO's innovation team and led the development of the IESO's first innovation roadmap. So I know that he has a lot to talk about this morning. And as opposed to having the traditional typical format of a keynote speech, we've kind of changed things around, and Dr. Bala will interview Terry and then open up the floor to give all of you an online opportunity to ask questions about the IESO, innovation, or even football, since you may not know that Terry is one of the Cleveland Browns' biggest fans, even if that relationship, like so many, has been disrupted by COVID-19. So it's my honor to welcome Terry. Terry and Dr. Bala, up to you.
Thanks very much, Susan. I'll maybe just start and just say how what a privilege it is to be here this morning. Really truly appreciate the opportunity to talk to Bala and talk to others about the great work that's going on today. When you think about the IESO and you think about, we're a system operator. So we, as you said, we're all about making sure that that the electricity can get to where and when it's needed across the province. You don't think of us as that organization that would be looking at innovative technologies. The electricity's been in Ontario for over a century now, and it's not been but over the last decade, we've certainly seen a lot of change in the sector. And I think, when I think about the IESO's role now as that integrator, looking across, we have this unique vantage point and we see everything that's going on, across the province with respect to electricity, our relationship with other jurisdictions. Ontario has so many interties, and so we're trading constantly with New York, with Michigan, with Quebec, with Manitoba, with Minnesota even. And so, you think about the relationship that we have, the vantage point that we have, we're going to be operating this system for many years, I hope. And so it makes so much sense for us to be involved in bringing forward, some of those technologies that we're going to be relying on in future years to provide the reliability that this province needs. When we created the innovation space a couple of years ago, we started thinking about all of the things that are out there, and we get it's not that we're doing this on our own. We certainly don't have the ability to do that, but because of the role that we have, because of the relationships that we have, we're able to create partnerships. The partnerships we have with the Center for Urban Energy, and we're able to be, being a member of NESNAT. It gives us a unique position to work with so many people and work with so many companies and try to see what we can to bring innovative technologies forward. And when we look at innovation, we don't look at it for innovation's sake. We look at it in terms of looking at these emerging technologies, which ones can enhance reliability, which ones can, make our system more affordable. So, we have a very much an interest. It's been an exciting couple of years for us. I'm really proud of the things that we've achieved. You're going to get to meet some of our team later. Edward Arlett, for example, is on one of the panels, and you'll see just the passion that the IESO brings to this area. So again, thanks very much for having me here, and Bala, I look forward to your questions.
Got my mic on. Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Thank you for being here. And thank you for the IESO's continued belief in the work that we are doing at the CUE and as a part of the wider NEST network. So we are grateful. Now let's dive into some questions, and I'll hold back my football questions for the very end. So let's just get into the first one here. So I know that COVID-19 and the change of leadership at the IESO, you had some curveballs thrown at you. Can you talk about that for a moment?
So when the pandemic was declared, obviously we, like every other company, were moving remotely. We had a small crew who were going into our control center, working in the control room, and some support staff. But we've largely been working remotely, like many businesses. But when you look at what we're doing every day, every 5 minutes, in fact, is we're forecasting the demand for electricity and then making sure that there is enough supply to meet that electricity. And so, that with the businesses shutting down, it was pretty clear that demand was going to drop. And but we saw lows. So when because we're responsible for meeting that demand for electricity, we have to have a system that is flexible, that can go up and down. And we've seen certainly changes in demand patterns over the last little while, changes in the way we're able to meet that demand. But in the early days of COVID-19, with everybody working remotely and the businesses shutting down, industry shutting down, we saw lows for electricity as low as we've seen in 20 years. So very low demand for electricity. And because we have a system that, we have a lot of supply that runs when it can. And so you have this base load of electricity. And so you're always, trying to balance this, and you don't want to shut things down in the event that you're going to need them an hour later, and it may take you a while to get them up and running again. And so, managing that demand for electricity, whether it's low or high, is often, it can be a challenge. So we had lows that were as low as we've seen in 20 years. And then a few months later, not even a few months later, given the hot summer we had, given the residential air conditioning load, and I will say we were somewhat surprised by the impact of all of that residential air conditioning load. But we saw demands for electricity that were as high, we hadn't seen actually that high since 2013. So we went from extreme lows to extreme highs in a matter of weeks. So that was certainly a challenge. And at the same time, we were obviously, like every company, trying to make sure that our employees were safe. We had a number of backup plans in the event, that we were affected by the pandemic from a health and safety perspective. But I have to say that, working with all of the other partners in the sector, we have so far managed to address the challenges we've had.
Fantastic. I must congratulate you on the good work. The lights remain on. Thank you very much.
And more importantly, Bala, we were able to provide the air conditioning stayed there as well in the summer when it was so hot.
Absolutely. And it's been an incredible ride from different perspectives. So congratulations to the IESO on the careful stakeholdering. All right, let me get on to the next one here. If you look at the next 6 months, what are the top priorities for the IESO?
So, when our CEO resigned and is taking a new position in Nova Scotia, I agreed to serve as the interim CEO, and it's a pretty critical point for us right now. It's a pretty critical point for the sector. There's a lot of things that are going on. And so it's funny you should talk about priorities, because I spent a bit of time working with the executive leadership team this week, trying to address the many priorities that we have. First and foremost, I think is I would speak to some of the work we're doing around the future in terms of looking over the next 8 to 10 years and putting forward a plan and working with stakeholders to engage them on how we are going to meet demands over the next decade. We very much believe in competition. We believe that a competitive marketplace can not only enhance reliability, but can also help drive costs down. And so we're looking at, as we see a number of contracts expiring over the next decade, we're looking in terms of how to bring them on board through a competitive process. But we're also, very clear about what's happening around us, and in terms of some of the emerging technologies that we've seen. We know that with the Industrial Conservation Initiative that the government had put in place, that there was a hiatus this year. But we know that there are a lot of resources behind the meter that are helping customers that address some of the ICI provisions in order for them to manage their energy costs. So we've been trying to get a handle on that, and we're starting to look at various technologies. We've got some work to do. We want to keep doing on storage. There's work we want to do around demand response. We're looking at different ways of partnering, storage with some of the facilities like wind. So it feels like we're at this critical point, where there's some, I'd say a fair amount of investment from us, from others, to keep moving in the direction that we need to move.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so I think the competitive procurement and other technologies are quite important as we go forward, and it'll help us build back in a way that's very green and much more healthier and cost competitive. Thank you. Now, this is on everybody's mind who's on this this morning on this conference. Speaking about enabling resources, can you speak to the IESO's progress with respect to storage?
So, I'm two things. A, I'm proud of what we've done, working with the storage community. So we've working with them, we've developed an interim design. We've put in place market rules that allow storage to be enabled. And so, there's been a lot of work on this. I think we have a terrific relationship with Energy Storage Canada and others. We're very much interested in looking at different projects, big and small. And so I'm in some respects, I'm very proud and pleased with the work that we've done, but I also recognize there's much more ground to cover. And, in terms of moving at the pace that we're moving, I do recognize how frustrating it can be. I spend a lot of time with the storage community, get a lot of proposals that come my way. And the IESO is focused on this. We've got a tremendous team. Storage has been a real key focus for our innovation group over the past little while. So I mentioned we created this group a couple of years ago, and it's headed by Catherine Sparks. And so we have been, we took that interim storage design, and it was one of the projects that we took on in that innovation group. And I'm pleased with the progress we've made. But that said, when I look around us and I see what other jurisdictions are doing, and it speaks to me, the potential that's there. And I think that's what we don't want to lose sight of, is the potential that's there for storage and other technologies. And we want to be walking step by step with you, enabling working and trying to address the challenges that are there. But as I said, I do recognize that we don't always move at a pace that others do, and so I think that's something that we need to try to address.
That's fantastic. And I think as the system operator, reliability for you is paramount. And so every step is cautious and prudent step. And so I've had little opportunity to interact with the ESAC and also Catherine Sparks and Edward Arlett in the storage realm. And it's been a fascinating journey in that storage process, just because of the complexities involved and the way storage can be integrated with the power systems, both big and small. So thank you. All right. So the next question for you, Terry. What are you seeing as innovative and positive directions in other jurisdictions?
So, I mean, this is where I think much of the learning can come from us, or come for us, right? I think, just 2 weeks ago, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, they've had a couple of orders recently that speak to the promise of renewable technologies, of emerging technologies. And the most recent one was Order 2222, which will open the U.S. markets to competition for, facilitating, if you will, this emergence of new technologies into the U.S. markets. We've certainly seen stuff out of California, out of Alberta. And for us, it's important to keep an eye on what they're doing so we can apply the learnings in Ontario. The IESO is a member of we love acronyms in this business, as you know, and we have an acronym of two acronyms. So we have the independent system operators and we have the regional transmission operators in North America. So the ISOs and the RTOs. And we've made an acronym of those in a forming group called the IRC. I don't know if you're still with me or not, but anyways, when you look at this group of ISOs and RTOs and some of their experiences as they're dealing with this, as they're enabling these new technologies, we're a member of that group. I see very much the ability to learn from them. And the partners that we have here, the participants in Ontario, who many have relationships in the States and have dealings in the States, and again they have experience that they can bring to us. So it's I see the world really opening up around us, and for us in Ontario, it's important to be part of that so that we can apply those learnings. And as I said, when you look at what some of these emerging technologies can do, how they can address some of the needs that we have around flexibility, that they can play an important part for us. And so, again, it's our focus is very much going to be on how ISOs and others in the U.S. are dealing with this most recent FERC order. We're getting up to speed on what this means, but also more importantly, how people are taking advantage of that.
That's fantastic. Yeah, the recent FERC order 2222, I'm just learning to say it right. But that's pretty intriguing. And I think one of the biggest portions of that, as you mentioned, are aggregators who can aggregate those small storage devices and dialogue with larger participants and the IESO in this case. So I think that's a fantastic opportunity there. So congratulations there. All right. So the next question that is on everybody's mind who are big and small and are developing technologies. So can you talk a little bit about the IESO's Grid Innovation Fund and any success stories and work in progress?
So, the Grid Innovation Fund, it's evolved. And so, as we look at how the sector is changing, it's important for us to change with it. And 5 years ago, we had a conservation fund. And so, we were looking at innovation in the energy efficiency space. I've had the privilege of leading the conservation team for the last five years, very proud of the results that we've got, that we've achieved working with LDCs, working with direct customers. And so we're at a point now where energy efficiency is really truly recognized as a system resource. I look at how much we've achieved, and our system, it's contributed to the reliability. The needs of new infrastructure are not as great as they would be, because of the contribution we've had from energy efficiency. The costs are lower because of that. It's the cheapest resource we have. And so through that conservation fund, we were promoting and investing in new energy efficiency technologies, approaches, et cetera. And with our transition to creating this innovation team that we have, we've changed the focus of this, and we've created this Grid Innovation Fund. And it's a relatively small fund. We have just under $10 million that we invest in different technologies and different businesses and different processes. I think of a couple of things that we're involved in now, that we're looking at. One on energy efficiency is we're working on, we have a capacity auction that we run each year, that we're looking at different resources competing in that capacity auction. And in 2 months, we're going to expand what we had was the demand response auction into an auction that considers imports, that considers, generation. And so now we're looking to see whether there's a fit for energy efficiency in that. So the Grid Innovation Fund is helping to fund this pilot around energy efficiency and whether it can contribute to meeting capacity needs. We're also, I think everybody's very excited about the non-wires alternative pilot that we have in York Region. So, looking at creating the opportunity to really use distributed resources, focus on them in that particular, look at them from a market context. And so there's a lot of excitement in that. There's a lot of interest, not just in Ontario, but in other jurisdictions. And I think this pilot is one of the ways that we're demonstrating leadership in Ontario. And that's what I see when I look at the Grid Innovation Fund of just some of those things that are there. And we're not just doing it ourselves, we're partnering. So we've partnered with Enercan on other initiatives. When people come in and do these, some of their proposals, they're contributing as well. So this is not just looking at emerging technologies, but it's also very much creating partnerships. So we're very excited about it. There's been tremendous interest. Even in a pandemic, our last call had more interest than we've seen before. So again, this is something that's taken off and something that we're really excited about.
That's fantastic. Yes, the non-wires alternative project is spoken about quite a lot. And as you said, there is a phenomenal amount of interest in that. And I think you're tying up different stakeholders, both from the distribution sector as well as from the transmission sector. So this is pretty interesting.
And it shows, it shows how, some of the work that we're doing really does speak to us, targeting needs as well, so we're really excited about that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Good. So I have a question related to the fund. And so you said the fund is evolving to address targeted needs. Right. Could you elaborate on that and speak to some of the other aspects that you're targeting?
So, one of the areas of concern for us is the Southwestern Ontario. And so if you look at how the greenhouse industry is expanding there, we see very significant growth over the next few years in Southwestern Ontario. If you go visit them and you're driving down Highway 77 and you see so many of the greenhouses now popping up, we're at a point where the greenhouse industry will be one of the significant loads with respect to industry. You think of mining, but you're starting to see now the load from greenhouses starting to approach that. with respect to how much electricity they're using. And so in this particular area, it's an area that we need to bring in some infrastructure to help address that growing demand. And so we're working with Hydro One on some new transmission infrastructure that's coming into the area. But building a transmission line does take time. And in the meantime, as we see these challenges, the Innovation Fund targeted actually the greenhouse industry and say, bring us your ideas and bring us the proposals. And so we're in the prospect or in the position now where we're starting to announce some of the winners of these projects that have. We announced 2 successful projects last week. Allegro Acres and Great Lakes greenhouses. And these projects will actually help us address some of the challenges we're seeing today, improving our capacity, and reducing some of that stress that we're seeing. And so to me, what it really does is you think about innovation and you think about, okay, this is all going to come out and down the road, we're going to be, we're going to benefit from it. And that's absolutely true. But these examples here are how we're benefiting from innovative approaches, innovation in general today. So these are meeting a need that we're having today. And so as we, I think this is exactly what the Grid Innovation Fund was set up to do. And so we're seeing some very much some successes already with respect to meeting needs today.
That's fantastic. Good to hear, and congratulations. That's amazing. Good. So I'm going to switch topics here and move to greenhouse gas emissions. So I want to know what's your take? How will Ontario tackle greenhouse gas emissions in the energy sector?
So, Ontario's, come a long way in terms of doing this. We have right now, I think, one of the cleanest electricity systems in any jurisdiction. 93, 94% of the electricity produced last year was carbon free. And so, we're certainly benefiting from, the production that nuclear power provides. We have a fairly significant contribution from hydro, and we have a very diverse supply mix. We have nuclear, we have hydro, we have a fair amount of wind on the transmission system, and then behind in the distribution systems, we have a fairly significant amount of solar. So I think our installed capacity is something around 35,000 megawatts. There's another 4,000 or 5,000 megawatts in the distribution center. Excuse me one sec. But so what we are, and so as this investment in these technologies has meant that we do have this very clean system. As we look over the next decade, though, with the retirement of Pickering planned in 5 years, with some of the nuclear units coming down for refurbishing, there's no question that the emission levels are going to rise a bit. Not where they were historically. We still will have a very clean system. But then again, I think about some of the things that you're going to talk about today that we briefly touched on. Some of the, storage initiatives that are coming forward, some of the ability of storage to partner with wind, with solar, and address the variability that comes with wind and solar. And so I think of that, and it's very exciting to think about that and the potential that's there and the potential that is there to reduce GHG as well.
Good. That's fantastic and good to know. And that's the future, as we all know. So that's fantastic. All right. So I have one last question before we branch out to our audience here. And the question, and do you have any advice for entrepreneurs in this sector and students in this sector?
I think it's a really neat time to be in this sector. I'm getting near to the end of my career, but I'm struggling to get there because it's so exciting to be part of this sector. I love what I do. I love the people I work with. I love what this organization that I work for does with. I'm excited about what's on the horizon. And so I think of, those who are coming into the sector and the opportunities that are there and the potential to actually really affect change in a really positive way. And the sector has changed so much over the last little while since I entered. When I joined, there was Ontario Hydro and there was Ontario Hydro. And there were a lot of small utilities, but with respect to where everything was occurring, it was at Ontario Hydro. And when the company broke up in '99, we've now opened the marketplace up, and you've got so much in terms of the diversity that's there, the diversity in technologies, the diversity in approaches, the diversity in people. And we are so fortunate to have all of this in Ontario and learn and work with it and learn from it and use it to all this diversity, contributes to a much more effective system than we had, when I first joined. And if you are joining, you have choices now. So, you can join an organization like ours, and, you can join like one of the other utilities, and largely it's a more stable environment you're going in. And so if you are an entrepreneur and you are looking for rapid change and you're a risk taker, it may not be the way that you point your career. On the other hand, if you are, very much want to move the yardsticks really quickly, very, you can. There are just different choices that can meet your individual needs and meet your individual interests. And I didn't have that when I joined. And so it's great, and there's so much. We're on the cusp of so much change. That I think it's really an exciting time to be in this sector. And so when people say they want to join, I say, great. How do we sign you up? So because there is so much going on here, and it's a great place to be part of.
That's fantastic. Good to know. And you know what? I couldn't agree more. This is such a fascinating sector, and it continues to evolve all the time, especially with the new technologies. And there is an aspirational goal for the society to go to carbon zero. And now is the time to act together and achieve that objective. Good. So I don't want to take up all the time asking what I wanted to ask. Thank you so much for answering all my questions. Let me go off to the audience here. Now, there is a particular question that I thought it's good, and I wanted to ask you this. So I'm going to click here, answer live. And so, will the fund finance projects targeting northern communities and off-grid communities to help switch from diesel to renewable energy?
So we've certainly done some of that in the past. I think of some of the pilots that we've had. In terms of some of the northern communities, in particular the First Nations communities. Through my grandmother, I'm a member of the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte, and so I have a personal interest in working with Indigenous communities and Indigenous peoples, and very, very proud of some of the work that we've done. Very proud of the work that we've done in some of these communities. We've been running pilots with respect to energy efficiency. We're in 4 communities right now. We're not there physically right now because of COVID-19, but we've introduced some pilots around making those communities more efficient as they could get connected to the Wate line that's coming in. We also have worked with the 5 Nations communities, northeast of Timmins. I've been to Fort Albany. I've been to Cache. I've been to Attawapiskat a few times, and see that difference that some of this involvement makes, and what they can. And so, yes, the short answer is yes, but the longer answer is we've been doing this for quite some time now, and as I said, it's very much something that. You can see the value of what we and others are doing in terms of the difference we're making in those communities.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Terry. There is another question here. I know we are just hitting the 9:45 time limit, but I thought there is another very interesting question, so I'll entertain that at my own peril. The IESO has been working quite a bit towards revamping its markets. So would you let us know what are the thoughts behind it? Where do you see it going? Is there an end, or is it a continual process that will help you improve the system forever?
Well, I always think of these as journeys, right? That you're by the time you get there, you realize you need to keep going. But with respect to the markets in Ontario, so we have a very ambitious program underway called Market Renewal, and it's addressing the energy stream and really improving the dispatch, really looking at day ahead market, lots of different initiatives in that. And that's something that it's one of our big actual projects that we have underway. And when you talk about priorities, continuing to move on the market renewal program is one of those priorities. But we're also in the terms of the way that we are achieving, that we are acquiring resources, we're changing that as well. And so last month we introduced something called the resource adequacy engagement, and we put out a proposed framework that shows the different streams, different avenues that we will be taking with participants around acquiring capacity. And so we recognize that not all projects, not all facilities can be acquired competitively. We have projects that have longer lead times in terms of construction, that there are other variables. I think of nuclear, I think of large hydro, when I think of that. But we also have a lot of assets, I think, or resources that can be acquired competitively. I think of the demand response auction that we ran for 5 years. We have seen significant contribution from demand response in terms of their ability to address the needs. And I think we've only actually scratched the tip of the iceberg with that. I was talking to a DR aggregator late yesterday about what other services can be provided, and it's something that I'm interested in exploring as long as I'm here. But again, I think so many resources have demonstrated their ability to compete. We believe, as I mentioned, competition, not only enhances reliability but drives costs down. And so very much at the beginning of change, and I see that change happening over this next 8 to 10 year period.
That's fantastic. So I must commend. In some ways, entertaining these DR aggregators and so on, you're ahead of the FERC Order 2222 because you're already doing it, and that's the fact.
But there is more, I think, Bala, that we can do, and so I'm very much interested in some of the conversations that not only we have right now, but that we want to start, and whether that's with distributed energy resources like storage. Whether it's looking at hybrids and partnering some storage with wind and solar, or whether it's looking at the broader demand response community. It's a well-established community in Ontario, and I think we did, in introducing the targets for this coming capacity auction, I think it was a little bit of a surprise in terms of what the winner needs are. And so, my comment back to the demand response community is, let's work together. Let's understand the context under which we need your resources, and let's see if we can find a path forward together.
Good, great. So I just wanted to bring this session to an end, and so we are a little bit over time. So that concludes our session 1. Thank you again, Terry and Susan, for all your insights today, and to the audience for their wonderful questions for Terry. Sorry we couldn't get them all because there are lots of questions and there is limited time, as always. So thank you, Terry. We really appreciate your participation and the continued support to the CUE.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, sir. Now what follows is a break before Neetika from Electra gets her session 2 underway at 10:15 a.m. Eastern. Her panel will discuss the current state of energy storage technology in Canada from a variety of angles. So see you all shortly, and thank you, Terry, and thank you, everyone.